And he goes through and he goes, I know you have all these reasons to think you're not supposed to, and that's why you're asking this question, but I'm telling you, the love I'm talking about, loving your neighbor, that person, your neighbor, is the one on the other side of that fence that you built. And what I'm calling you to do is just knock it down. And to go, that is your neighbor. And if you're going to follow me, then that's who I'm calling you to love. That's what he's challenging us to. Which honestly, when you think about it, that's a hard challenge. But what a difference it can make if we would actually do it. There's all kinds of steps we could put into place and say, okay, if we're going to do it, this is what we need to do, or that's what we need to do, and we're not going to get into all that this morning. But as we end this time of just talking about the need to follow Jesus' greatest desire, to love him and to love our neighbors as ourselves, we need to realize that that desire goes to anybody we come in contact with. And we can't go, I hear you, Jesus, as long as I'm good with doing that. He's saying what I'm calling you to do is pretty big and pretty deep. That means I'm calling you to do it with people of which there's been a fence built between you and them, whether it was by you or whether it was by them. Like I said, there's things we can take in. We can look for the likenesses instead of the differences. We can think of them beyond ourselves. We can take in the example of Jesus that you can read about in Philippians 2, all those things. But the first thing we need to do is go, okay, I hear you. I hear you. And then determine, do I want to do that? Because that's the kind of love, as we finish this up, that he's calling us to. Is the one that loves our neighbor, shows love to him by loving our neighbor, even those on the other side of the fence. As we finish this idea up with love, that's what I want us to hang on to this week. Is can I do that? Because he doesn't get done. I actually heard, and I told somebody this week, I heard somebody speaking on this when I was studying it. They actually said he's not actually telling us to go be the Good Samaritan. All these years they said we've been thinking he's telling us to be the Good Samaritan. Because the truth is we can't do that. Only Jesus can play the role of the Good Samaritan. We're to play the innkeeper who takes care of those that Jesus gets. And I was all good on that. I was like, oh good, that gets us off the hook a little bit. That feels good. But unfortunately, I think that person's wrong. Because at the end of this, what Jesus says is, I want you to go and do likewise to what this person did, which means he believes that we can. He believes, in his power. We can only do it with his strength working through us. We can only do it as we stay connected to him and trust him and actually believe him. But he says, this is the love as a follower of me I want you to express. If he didn't, then when James and John came back, he would have went, sure, let's burn them down. But that's not the heart of Jesus. He had just been rejected by people that hated him because of his nationality. And he said, no, let him be. I'm going to continue my march towards here, where I'm going to go die for them and for you, and I'm going to give him a chance. And he's saying, that's what I want you, those of us following him, to do also. So like I said, and as they come up and they'll close, we're going to close this up today. As we close this thing on love, I want us to just really pull back and not get so caught up in the simplicity of the messages we've heard the last 3 weeks that we just shove them aside, but to actually take this week to stop and to consider whether I am being a person who is truly loving God with everything I've got. And I don't mean every moment, all the time, and everything, because I know we can't, but at least I'm trying to love God with everything I've got. And if I'm doing that as I love my neighbor, like I love myself, if I even loving myself so I can do that, I want us to really stop and think about that. Not stop and go, but I've gone to church through this whole COVID thing still, and I've watched every sermon that they had online, and I'm staying as connected as I can, and I want us to stop and go, am I truly loving people loving my neighbor as God calls me to and says it's the greatest commandment in everything that comes up. In each situation that I'm in, each person that's in the ripple effect of my influence in my life, are they experiencing from me love? And then to really dig into it, and then ask yourself this question. In the midst of all this, go, who have I actually given myself permission not to love? When you're thinking of this, go, is there someone that I've given myself permission to not give this love to? Is there someone that I've built a fence between, or they built a fence between me, so I've said, I'm done. I'm not gonna give this love to them. Add that to it too, because we're never gonna fully experience, and this world's never gonna fully experience this weapon of love that Jesus has us fight with if we don't also address that. And if you need help, maybe it's that difficult family member that hurt you in some way, that said something or did something or didn't do something or didn't say something that you were hoping they would say, and that fence was built. Maybe it's a difficult person with whom you have history because they did you wrong. That we're going, you know what? I can love everybody and I won't do anything, but I'm not going to love them. There's a fence there. Maybe it's a coworker who's always pushing your buttons. Maybe for our students, there's a student in school that you just dread going to see every day because you just know. And you think, and all you're thinking on the way there is not how can I love them, but how can I put them in their place today? Maybe it's another family that your family's never gotten along with. Maybe it's a person with a different lifestyle choice than you. Someone who's chosen to live with a different lifestyle, so you've said, nope, I'm building a fence, that's where I'm drawing the line. You don't get my love. Maybe it's someone with a different political affiliation, especially when they speak out about it. Someone with different theological and doctrinal beliefs, a person with just different opinions, a person who simply makes dumb decisions in life. All these people, just say, maybe those are the ones, maybe there's someone for that reason you've built a fence around. And I was just telling them today, we're, in a crazy way, we're 3 weeks away from football season. I wish Shane was here. I'd say maybe it's someone who cheers for the wrong team, and we build a fence. I mean, just all kinds of things that can build fences. Let's stop and go, is there someone that I've built a fence between or has built one that I've given myself permission not to love? And then think about these examples, and then think about this. How would I respond if I were to ask the question to Jesus today, and he gave me the same answer today he gave that man with them in mind? And then work from there. Because if we're going to truly experience loving as he calls, and the results of that, it's not just going to be just loving the people we like and learning to love ourselves. It's also going to be breaking down those fences and loving those that are really hard to love, that he says are our neighbors. So as we close this on love, that's the biggest challenge. It may be the greatest challenge, but don't just put it aside because, again, we've heard it so many times. Stop and reflect on that this week. Consider that. And then say, I can't do it. I haven't been doing it. Man, God, help me to go and do likewise. Let's close with the worship team.
Something like